I never expected the day I graduated from Stanford Business School to be anything but bittersweet. At 24, I was supposed to be feeling pride, anticipation, joy. But instead, as I pulled my modest trench coat tighter around my waist and stepped onto the city bus that would take me to the ceremony, I felt a heavy pit settle in my stomach. My name is Camilla Hayes, and this is the story of how I walked alone into my greatest triumph, while the people who should have stood beside me chose someone else. My family, or what's left of it, never really understood me. My father, Martin Hayes, is a man obsessed with appearances, his pride firmly tied to my brother's achievements. My older brother, Tyler, has always been the golden child. Star quarterback in high school, business major turned aspiring crypto bro. Me? I was the girl who buried herself in books and code, always slightly out of sync with the glamorous, shallow rhythm of our household. Graduation day was supposed to be different. For once, I allowed myself to hope they'd see me, that they'd show up, maybe even be proud. Instead, I got a terse text from my father. Tyler needs us to test drive the new Tesla. Take the bus, Cam. Congrats. That text sat like a shard of glass in my chest. I had no reply. I sat in silence, gripping the edge of my seat as the bus rumbled through Palo Alto, trying not to cry. I didn't want pity. I wanted them to care. But I had learned, painfully, repeatedly, that I was not their priority. So I stayed quiet. I showed up. And I smiled. What they didn't know, what no one knew, was that I had already arrived at a destination far more meaningful than that ceremony. Behind the scenes, I had built something no one in my family had bothered to ask about. Walker Tech Enterprises, the company I started out of my dorm room at Stanford, was now valued at $13.8 billion. Not million, billion. I had negotiated seed funding in secret, coded most of the initial infrastructure myself, and hired a world-class team under an alias to ensure my anonymity. Every weekend, they thought I was studying or volunteering. I was leading board meetings under a pseudonym. But I hadn't told them. Not out of pettiness or pride, but because I needed to do this for me. Because their approval was always conditional, on fitting their mold, meeting their standards. I built my empire without them, on my own terms. And today, they'd find out. As the bus pulled up to the graduation hall, I smoothed my gown and stood tall. This wasn't just the day I got my diploma. This was the day I stepped fully into my own light. My name is Camilla Hayes. I'm a Stanford graduate, a self-made tech billionaire. And today, I'm done asking for anyone's permission to shine. That morning, as I got dressed for what should have been a monumental occasion, I held on to the faint hope that maybe, just maybe, they'd surprise me. But when I checked my phone, the only notification was from Dad. We're heading to the dealership with Tyler. He wants to test drive a Model S. Can you take the bus to campus? No call, no offer to meet, no pride in my accomplishments, just another reminder that my needs were always an afterthought. I stared at that message for longer than I care to admit. It wasn't just about the ride. It was the symbolism of it all. Tyler's new car, a Tesla, sleek and status-laden, mattered more than my entire academic and entrepreneurial journey. A journey they'd never once asked about. A journey that led to more success than either of them could imagine. I felt something twist in my chest, a mixture of grief and rage. But I swallowed it. As always, I masked the sting with a polite smile and a deep breath. They didn't know, and maybe they never would have, if not for today. I decided in that moment. I wouldn't let them ruin this for me. I had built something powerful, something groundbreaking, all while they weren't paying attention. And I didn't need their validation to make it real. On the bus, I thought about all the moments I'd hidden my progress. Late-night meetings disguised as group projects, venture capital deals signed under a shell company, product launches run from my dorm bathroom. I thought about the months I spent working through migraines, juggling midterms and million-dollar decisions, all without once hearing a, "We're proud of you." It wasn't just hurt. It was betrayal. They'd chosen Tyler again and again, no matter what I did. He didn't need to prove himself. He was born enough. I, on the other hand, had to build my worth from the ground up, brick by solitary brick. And I had. When I arrived at the ceremony venue, I paused at the entrance. I could already hear the buzz inside, the laughter of classmates reunited, families clapping each other on the back. I stood there for a breath, chin high, heart steel-plated. They might have taken the easy road, but I took the road that built empires. And this empire, it had my name on it, not theirs. The sun was high above Stanford's memorial court, casting golden light across the sea of black caps and gowns. I found my seat among the graduates, the roar of the crowd washing over me in waves. Rows upon rows of proud families filled the bleachers, cheering, crying, taking photos. Somewhere in the distance, I imagined Tyler revving the engine of his shiny new Tesla, oblivious. I glanced at the empty row of seats marked Hayes, reserved for them, untouched. A bittersweet smirk played at my lips. Let them miss this. The ceremony began, and the usual speeches came and went. Dean's addresses, honors presentations, a few humorous stories from class reps. But then, the tone shifted. Dean Sorensen took the stage again, clearing his throat with the kind of energy that meant something important was coming. Each year, he began, we recognize a student who embodies not just academic excellence, but visionary leadership and lasting impact. This year, it's not just a student we honor, but a pioneer, a builder, a force. My heart pounded. This young woman founded a company from her dorm room that is now valued at $13.8 billion, he continued. And until today, she kept that success completely under wraps, an extraordinary act of humility and focus. I felt the heads of every graduate and guest around me turn. Whispers erupted like a gust of wind through the crowd. Please join me in recognizing the youngest self-made billionaire in tech history, Camilla Hayes. It was like the world stopped. A beat, then thunderous applause. Cheers, gasps, my name echoing off the high arches of the courtyard. I stood, legs trembling with adrenaline, and walked toward the stage. I felt 10 feet tall. When I reached the podium, I looked out over the crowd, not searching for anyone in particular, just taking it all in. And then I began. Thank you, Dean Sorensen. And thank you to every person in this audience who has ever felt unseen, unheard, underestimated. I know that journey well. My voice was clear, my words intentional. I built Walker Tech because I wanted to solve problems that others ignored. But I also built it because I needed to prove to myself that I was more than the roles I was given, more than the labels placed on me. I didn't do this to impress anyone. I did it because I believed in myself, even when others didn't. I paused. To anyone out there who's waiting for permission to chase their dream, you don't need it. Go anyway, build anyway, win anyway. The crowd rose in a standing ovation. And in that moment, for the first time in my life, I didn't feel alone. I felt powerful. I felt seen. I felt exactly where I was meant to be. The ceremony ended in a whirlwind of photos and champagne, of friends hugging each other and parents sobbing with joy. I stood off to the side, quietly watching, alone, but no longer lonely. Then I saw them. My father, Martin, appeared first. His stride slower than usual, his posture slightly hunched. Tyler followed, fidgeting with his designer sunglasses. They looked out of place, their confidence dimmed, their usual swagger replaced with something resembling hesitation. For the first time in my life, they looked like they didn't know what to say to me. Camilla, Dad started, his voice uncertain, as though testing the waters. That was impressive. I gave a calm nod. Thank you. Tyler shoved his hands into his pockets. You really kept all that a secret? The company? The billions? Yes, I said, because I needed to know I could do it without anyone's permission. They exchanged a glance, equal parts guilt and disbelief. My father took a step forward. We should have been there today. We were wrong. There it was, an apology, late, quiet, imperfect, but real. I know, I replied, and I've already forgiven you, but I don't need your approval anymore. I didn't say it to be cruel. I said it because it was true. Dad looked down, ashamed. Tyler muttered something that could have been another apology or just a breath of regret. It didn't matter. What mattered was that I finally saw them clearly. They weren't the gods I had chased approval from my whole life. They were just people. Flawed, distracted, misguided people. And I was no longer a girl begging to be seen. I was a woman who had claimed her place in the world. A few classmates came by to congratulate me, pulling me back into the moment with their joy. My father and brother stood awkwardly to the side, eventually retreating with a quiet nod. I watched them walk away, not with anger, but with peace. Because now I wasn't walking alone. Now I was leading. As the evening sun bathed the campus in a golden hue, I found a quiet bench tucked beneath a flowering jacaranda tree. I sat there alone, diploma in one hand, phone buzzing with congratulatory messages in the other. I finally allowed myself to breathe. I thought about everything it took to get here. The solitude, the doubt, the long nights of sacrifice, and not just the kind of sacrifice people post on social media. I mean, the real kind. Sacrificing family approval, choosing purpose over popularity, knowing I could never unhear the things my father didn't say when it mattered. And yet, I had made it. More than that, I had soared. I used to believe success had to be shared to be real. That applause meant more when it came from the people you loved. But today taught me something else. Success is a mirror. It reflects who you are when no one is watching. And what I saw in that mirror now wasn't just a tech mogul or a Stanford graduate. It was a woman who learned that self-worth doesn't come with a permission slip. It comes when you stop waiting to be invited and choose to arrive anyway. I looked down at my diploma, then opened my phone to a picture someone had texted me. A shot from my speech, arms open, face bright with purpose. I smiled. Not because it was the perfect picture, but because I remembered exactly how I felt in that moment. Powerful, grounded, undeniable. There would be more challenges ahead. That much was certain. Building a legacy isn't a single moment. It's a lifetime of choices. But now I knew I could trust myself to make the right ones. To lead with vision. To demand respect. To blaze ahead. And as I stood up from that bench, the jacaranda blossoms fluttering around me like confetti, I whispered a quiet promise to myself. I don't need permission to be great. I already am. The story of my journey is rooted in the deep, tangled vines of family dynamics, of being born into a household where love and acknowledgement are rationed like currency. What unfolded on my graduation day wasn't just about me stepping into success. It was a reckoning, a revelation, and ultimately, a reclaiming. One of the most dominant themes throughout my story is *** family and betrayal ***. It wasn't a dramatic movie-style betrayal. It was quieter, colder, the kind that happens in forgotten phone calls, dismissive glances, and the consistent centering of someone else's dreams over mine. My father and brother weren't villains, but their indifference hurt more than hatred ever could. Then comes the theme of ***, female empowerment ***. Every part of my story, from building Walker Tech in secret to standing alone on the graduation stage, reflects the quiet strength women carry when the world refuses to see them. I didn't just defy the odds. I redefined them. I proved to myself, and to every woman watching, that we don't need anyone's permission to claim our space, our brilliance, or our ambition. This story is also a testament to ***, perseverance, ***, and ***, self-belief ***. I didn't have cheering crowds behind me when I was building algorithms at 3 a.m. or pitching investors between classes. What I had was grit, a relentless drive to prove that I was more than the family I came from, more than the girl who took the bus. Finally, at the heart of it all is *** independence, ***. Not the kind that comes with cutting people off, but the kind you earn when you realize your self-worth isn't tethered to anyone's validation. My journey was never about revenge. It was about liberation. These themes, betrayal, empowerment, resilience, and independence, aren't just mine. They belong to every person who's been underestimated, overlooked, or told they weren't enough. And together, they form the blueprint of a legacy built not from approval, but from power reclaimed. When I look back at who I was at the start of this story, I see a young woman with sharp intelligence, relentless drive, and a heart that still hoped, against all odds, that her family would one day recognize her worth. I see a daughter trying to earn love through excellence, a sister playing the supporting role in someone else's spotlight. But I also see the first sparks of a flame that would one day burn through every limitation. At the beginning, I was someone who buried my pain. I internalized the hurt of being overlooked. I channeled that pain into perfectionism, thinking that if I just accomplished enough, they'd have no choice but to love me. But life doesn't work that way. And neither does love. Through this journey, I transformed. The Camilla who rode that bus to graduation was still raw, still wounded. But she was also ready, ready to reclaim the narrative, ready to step into her power. And with every step, onto the graduation stage, into that spotlight, past the awkward apologies, I became someone new. I became a woman who no longer needs approval to define her worth. A leader who builds not just companies, but communities of people who believe in doing things differently. A daughter who recognizes that love must be unconditional to be real. And a sister who understands that sibling rivalry doesn't have to end in resentment. It can end in release. My character arc is one of self-realization. I didn't become someone new. I peeled away everything that was never truly mine to begin with. The masks, the compromises, the quiet tolerance of disrespect. And beneath it all, I found a woman who is powerful, visionary, and enough. As for my father and Tyler, their development is less pronounced, but no less important. For the first time, they were forced to reckon with their own blind spots. They saw me not as the girl they dismissed, but as the woman the world applauded. And while they may never fully grasp the depth of what they missed, they were humbled by it. In that way, we all grew. We all changed. And that, I believe, is what real character development is about. Not just becoming stronger, but becoming truer. The plot twists in my story weren't the kind that arrived with thunder and lightning. They crept in quietly, reshaping everything beneath the surface until the truth could no longer be hidden. The biggest twist, of course, was the reveal itself. What no one, not even my closest peers, expected from the quiet girl in the back row of lectures. The audience at the graduation ceremony had come prepared to celebrate ordinary success. Honor students, future consultants, promising entrepreneurs. What they got instead was a revelation. The youngest self-made billionaire in tech history had been sitting among them all along. That twist didn't just shock them, it redefined what they thought was possible. Another unexpected turn was my family's reaction. I'd imagined smug surprise or even defensive denial, but what I got was something far more human. Silence, shame, a kind of humility I'd never seen in my father's eyes. Tyler, always so loud and proud, couldn't even meet my gaze at first. For once, their world had shifted, not mine. The weight of their previous indifference was now theirs to carry. A more personal twist came when I realized that I didn't feel the vindication I expected. I thought unveiling my success would fill the void their neglect created. But as I stood on that stage, hearing my name thunder across the courtyard, I realized something deeper. I didn't need them to feel small for me to feel big. That twist, the emotional one, was the most powerful of all. Even the media didn't see it coming. Within hours of the announcement, headlines were exploding across tech blogs and business sites. Stanford graduate secretly builds $13.8 billion empire. Camilla Hayes, the billionaire we never saw coming. Interviews poured in. Investment firms I'd once dreamed of working for were now requesting meetings. The same people who might have brushed past me in networking events were now eager to shake my hand. And perhaps the most meaningful twist of all? My classmates, the ones I'd always admired from a distance, looked at me differently. Not with envy, but with awe. With respect. I wasn't just another face in the yearbook. I was someone who had quietly rewritten the rules. In the end, the real plot twist wasn't the billion-dollar empire or the surprised gasps from the audience. It was this. I had spent so much of my life thinking I needed permission to matter. But I never did. The world changed when I showed up unapologetically as myself, and nothing was ever the same again.